Are you ready for some stories? Welcome to Dreamland Storytelling. I think this is our 6th installment. My name is Bonnie Levison, and I am so happy to be here in this beautiful building with all you beautiful people. Gosh, we're together, aren't we? It's pretty cool. Who, by round of applause, who has been to a Dreamland Storytelling show before? Well, thank you. Welcome back. Who are our first timers, by round of applause? Well, welcome. I'm not sure you have any idea. Just so you know, when I walked in, I saw that this show is unrated. I'm a little insulted, Josh, that we're unrated. And I should warn any parents who brought their 5-year-olds that storytelling, actually, you might be thinking across the street in the library. This is not that kind of storytelling. I actually remember the first time I heard about storytelling, and I thought it was circle time with my kindergartner. I did not think it would be a bunch of people, over 18 telling stories about sex, drugs, rock and roll. Like, you have no idea what's about to happen tonight. I hope your seatbelts are on. So for those of you who have not been here, this is a night of stories from the people. It is from Nantucketers, and they are going to share stories from their lives. They are true. They're telling them without notes, which is particularly scary, I know, but it's really just storytelling. And I fell in love with this oldest of art forms long ago because I had been involved in comedy, and I think comedy is amazing, and I love it, and I love the connection that you get. But I wasn't very good. So I decided that I would find something else. But I ended up going to a storytelling show and falling in love with the fact that people spoke from their heart, and they could make you laugh, they could make you cry, they can make you think, and most of all, they can connect to us with our stories. So I think for those of you who've been to this before, you've had that experience where you hear these stories and you start relating to them. And even though we don't live each other's lives, we could, look different, come from wildly different places. At the very heart of all of us are human emotions, and that is where we all connect. And so I think just the idea of sharing a story is a beautiful gift, and you're going to receive 5 beautiful gifts today. And I went to the Dreamland mission. I thought that was I had never actually read the mission, because just as a reminder, this place is so special. It is such a gift to this island. Huge round of applause to Josh Gray, because the guy, I don't know, for those of you who don't know who he is, most of you do, I asked him his actual title because I thought he was sort of the big poobah of everything. But he said, no, I'm not. I'm actually officially the director of creative programming. So the director of non-creative programming was not available tonight. I just want to point that out. But he's amazing, and I do want you guys to know he's so amazing that even in our rehearsal the other night, we came into this room and he was sweeping popcorn between shows. I mean, come on, is that awesome? Yeah, it's awesome. And when no one's looking, right? Those are the good people. But here's the first part of the mission that I thought was really interesting and appropriate for tonight. The Dreamland's mission is to build community on Nantucket year-round by bringing people together to share experiences through film, art, culture, and learning. And that's exactly what we're doing tonight. We're bringing all of you guys together to hear from each other. And you might be hearing someone you've met before, but I'll guarantee you're going to learn something about them you didn't know. And that, to me, is really cool and really exciting. And so we have 5 storytellers tonight, and each one of them is going to share a story inspired by gratitude, the theme of gratitude, quite appropriate today. By the way, Nantucket has the most rapid transition from Thanksgiving to Christmas of any place I have ever been. It is amazing. I walked through town today and I'm like, am I in a Hallmark movie? What is happening here? It's pretty amazing. But I was thinking about gratitude, and I was thinking about, obviously we're all in this beautiful space together, and that is something we can all be so grateful for. And I was thinking about that time way back when, the March of 2020, when all of this sort of fell down on us, and it was a scary time. And I had a friend house-sitting my house here in Nantucket, which I was worried about, but I was so grateful that she was there. And I I had written to her and said, I hope you're okay. And she said, actually, I wasn't feeling very well. And the hospital made me come in and they tested me. And the good news is I don't have COVID, but the bad news is I do have Ebola. And I was, wait, what? So do I have to burn my house down? And are you okay? And I wrote her back, I said, wait, you have Ebola? And she said, yes, but the doctor told me if I just take some antibiotics, I'll be fine. And I'm like, you have Ebola. I am not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure you're dead. I'm sorry to be so candid. I told my children, I said, I don't think we can ever go back to Nantucket again. And my kids are like, so 48 hours later, my son calls me up. He's like, Mom, I think she got it wrong. And so I did. I called her up. I said, are you sure you have Ebola? Are you sure it's not E. coli? She goes, oh, yeah, it's E. coli. So for 48 hours, I am telling you, I was terrified. And that reminds me that things are all relative, because for a moment in time in the beginnings, I felt like life is pretty good because she did not have Ebola. And so that is all relative. But now we are that much far forward. I'm grateful to be with all of you. I'm grateful my friend did not have Ebola. And you know what? Let's move forward. Now, all of you were kind enough, some of you, I should say, were kind enough. I've asked your assistance because the magic of what I do is that I actually don't do any of the work. I get the storytellers to do all the work. I also get you audience members to do the work. And so I have asked some of you who've been kindly filled out anonymously some questions and a question. And so I've asked some of you to tell us about a time that you gave help or received help from someone and perhaps how it felt. And so I'm going to share those sort of throughout the show. So let me read a couple to you. The last time I helped, it's not the one okay. It was about 3 years ago. I helped a man who was near the Brotherhood. He dropped a few items, a few packages from Black Friday shopping. And it happened to be Joe Biden. It felt great to help a regular Joe. It's pretty sweet, right? Like that. And I just kind of like this one. Here's someone who didn't quite answer the question, but did. I couldn't figure out how to turn on the TV remote. Not very smart. Now this person, whoever you are, we are here to help you. This is not where someone gave help or received help. This is a cry for help right here. And we appreciate the honesty. But we are going to get on with the show, and I will be reading. Thank you guys for helping with these. And so we're going to get on with the show. And rather than you all may know these people, you're certainly going to know them after their story. But rather than introduce them, I'll tell you a little bit about them after they finish. But I've all asked them each the question, tell me one of your favorite places on the island. And so please get ready to welcome our first storyteller. When I asked her what's one of her favorite places, she said her favorite place on the island is in Nantucket is the theater workshop stage at Bennett Hall. So please welcome Sarah Fraunfelder.
Thank you, Bonnie. Wow, I don't think you should have walked away from stand-up. I actually think you're great. Hi, everybody. Well, about 2 years ago, I had found out that the latest in a string of fertility treatments that I've been trying had failed. I was not pregnant. I was trying to get pregnant on my own. I was single. And it had me a little bit down. But I am what you would call a hype girl. I am a bright sider. I am a cheerleader. I'm a supporter. You get it. And so I was looking forward to my next treatment, lucky number 6. And I was looking forward to the spring because I was going to be starting my dream job at the Theater Workshop of Nantucket. And so I had those things in line. And then Thanksgiving came, and I was reunited with someone that I had known for the past 10 years, a man named Andrew. And he asked me to go for a walk with him, a midnight walk on Thanksgiving. And I said yes. And we walked together, and he He was shaking. He was so nervous. And he held my hand. And I said, oh, you must be so cold. You're shivering. And he said, no, I'm just nervous. I really have a crush on you. I know. And just like that, we were smitten. It was that simple and stupid. I mean, it was just easy and wonderful. So that was a really great thing that was happening. And then in the new year, these wonderful things that I was looking forward to started to fall away. My job went away with the onset of the pandemic. My best friend has a very serious heart condition, and I was not even, it wasn't even safe for me to be in a room with her. My dog died. I was no longer able to continue fertility treatments. My hype girl was struggling. But I was in love. And I was in love with a man, though, who had 3 grown children of his own. And he had gotten snipped like 20 years ago. So that, was just not going to happen. So he decided to move in when the lockdown happened. And I was having a really hard time. I felt like I had lost my identity, my purpose. I didn't understand a world where I couldn't have a child of my own because I was at a certain age where I was looking at that now through the rearview mirror. Sorry. I didn't know if what I had studied my entire life for would ever be relevant again. I didn't know if I could ever perform or teach or work for a theater or entertain people in a room ever again. So, but my hype girl, oh man, she really bucked up and she was like, girl, you are in love. This is your story now. You are okay. And Andrew and I, we cooked and laughed and just hugged in the kitchen. And I mean, I had a friend who literally was like, yeah, I walk my dog by your house. I see you guys hugging in the kitchen all the time. Like, it was cute. We played board games and watched movies and we were very happy. And we spent an entire year in lockdown together. And then one Saturday, I was sitting on the couch and he was in the kitchen and I looked at him and I just got this funny feeling and I said, are you happy? And he said, no. 3 days later, he was gone. And there I was. The one thing I had been clinging to, the one thing the basket I put all my eggs in, even that was gone. I was shattered. I was despondent. But the first time I managed to giggle after that was when I was texting my 2 writing partners. I teach stand-up comedy to kids. And as a result, I started doing stand-up comedy because I will not be outdone by a 9-year-old. And I have 2 wonderful guys that I teach with, and we've become partners in writing and performing. And I texted them and I said, here's my new joke. After spending a year in quarantine together, my boyfriend decided that he needed to leave and break up with me. I'm trying not to take it personally. It's not a great joke, but but in that moment, I took back a little bit of my happiness. I wasn't denying the misery and the pain of what happened. I was using it in a way to try to turn it into something else. And it felt really good. And so I thought, what else can I do to turn this soul-sucking pain into something else? And so I decided to go roller skating. And I was very excited. And I got these new roller skates, and they were navy blue with glitter on them. And they are navy blue with glitter on them. And they have red wheels. And I was roller skating over to see some friends. I had an outdoor quarantine group, and we would see each other once a week. And I was like, girls, I'm coming over on my skates. And they were like, but are you sure? I don't think that's a great idea. And I literally said in our group text, ladies, it's time. It was not time. I made it about 3.5 glorious minutes before a little patch of gravel destroyed my dignity and ruined my dreams. I went down hard. I was bleeding, and my wrist was the size of an orange. And I was shaking, and so I went to the emergency room, and I texted my girls. I was like, hey, from the ER. Like, they were still waiting for me to show up, and I was like, you were right. So I was in the ER, and I could not stop laughing. I couldn't. I was delirious. Everything was funny. It was actually quite lovely. And the doctor had my chart out and was looking at it, and I was just on the bed in hysterics. And I said, I'm so sorry, I can't stop laughing. And he didn't even look at me, and he said, oh, well, that's just a defense mechanism. And I immediately began sobbing. I, in that moment, felt like I was coming off 1.5 years of defense mechanisms, and I had nothing left. Roller skating was the last one. They were all gone. And all I could do was sit in the pain and the fear and the loneliness and the doubt. And it's amazing the things that we'll do to try not to feel the things that we have to feel in order to move forward. So I sat in those things in a really ugly brace that I spilled spaghetti sauce on day one. Red splatters. I also set it on fire twice. So now I had to walk around with this ridiculous looking brace, but at least my outside matched my inside. And then an amazing thing happened. We got vaccinated. I was able to hug my best friend, even though I was doubled over in heartache when I did it. I was able to get back on stage, which was such a gift. I was able to get myself back, because this whole time I kept thinking, all I want back is this man that made the last 1.5 years of my life bearable. But what I really wanted back was me. And so she started to come back, slowly and surely. And the most amazing thing, too, is that now Andrew and I are talking, because he was going through something equally as crazy and terrifying as I was. And we were together, and then he had to go figure his stuff out, and it turns out I had to go figure my stuff out. And I don't know what's going to happen. My hype girl's a little tired, but she is still there, and my wrist still clicks when I move it, and my heart is a little more guarded than it was before. But I think what I'm grateful for is for not having to be a hype girl, but just getting to be a girl that got through something really fucking difficult. Thank you.
Sarah Fraunfelder. Well, I know we're all grateful she did get through it and got through it to be here tonight. Thank you for that. Very raw story. You know, when storytelling is really done well, you just feel like, I told you, these guys this, you feel like you're sitting with a friend at a dinner table or over a beer, and they're just telling you this story. from their heart. And I know you'll feel this tonight. We certainly felt that with you, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you. And just so you know, Sarah is an actor, a comedian, a stylist, a photographer who lives here on the island. She coaches young actors and teaches kids stand-up comedy through Stand Up and Learn. She is the marketing coordinator of the theater workshop of Nantucket, where she also performs on stage. And her photography can be found at womaninfield.com. And she roller skates, I do believe. And I asked her, I said, you mean rollerblade, right? I'd like to correct you on that. She goes, no, I mean roller skates with the multiple wheels. And I thought of your story, and I remember I used to rollerblade, the path. And many moons ago, when I was married, my husband and I went out rollerblading for the first time. And we had maybe 10 minutes of glorious rollerblading until I hit a patch. And I remember going down and my arm hanging off of my body, and I'm going, nope, not good. And my husband, who absolutely was fearful at the sight of even a drop of blood, said, here, let me take a look at it. He yanked my arm out and he put it back in. And I'm like, oh, I feel better. My God. And so Dr. Levison actually did perform, saved this arm, and there is a slight bit of a crick, but it's okay. But you just reminded me of that. You have to be careful with those patches, you guys. Definitely. Okay, tell us about a time you gave or received help. Here's somebody who was at crew practice and was trying to make the varsity team, and you have to make a certain time on the, I think it's called the erg, something like this, and this person felt like they couldn't do it, and those times I can so relate where you just want to give up and say, F it. And the coach knelt down next to this person and yelled at them and motivated them to finish strong, and this person did. So bravo. This is, a good yell is sometimes a help, right? It's like, okay, I can do it. And you did. This person, it was in 1990. I was driving home from my parents' house. We were with my 4-year-old, with me was my 4-year-old daughter and 1-year-old son. It was dark and cold. It was a dark and stormy night. We were on the highway and got a flat. I had no cell phone. Remember, 1990. We waited 2 hours and finally, that's scary, 2 hours, man. Someone finally stopped, an off-duty police officer who was on his way to see his wife in the hospital. Of course. I told you, we're like in a Hallmark movie here. It's just going to happen. And thank goodness. And this person didn't know how long he or she would be there, but very grateful for that person. And they got a cell phone the very next day. Yeah, even in 1990. Okay, we are going to keep going. Thank you to audience members for these wonderful stories. You can tell we all have lots of stories here. So our next storyteller, I didn't get, what's a favorite place on the island for you, Gary?
I'll say Cisco Beach.
Cisco Beach, why not? We love Cisco Beach, and you'll probably learn why very soon. Please welcome to the stage, Gary Kohner.
So, it's April 1991. I'm 20 years old. And it's the second night I've been in El Salvador, and I wake up to the sound of a bomb exploding. Now let me just backtrack a little bit. I'd gotten there the day before with my friend Jack. We came from Costa Rica, and I'd met Jack in Costa Rica. He was 40 years old at the time, and for me, 40 was like really old. I was like, wow, like I can't believe this guy is actually still like going on surf trips at 40. But, we became friends, and we decided we were going to go to El Salvador because there was this amazing wave that we'd heard about called Punta Roca in the town of La Libertad. Now, this was 1991. The Civil War is still going on. But we had heard that this area, there was never any fighting, and it was pretty safe. We were able to get the visa. So I figured, how bad could it be? They gave us a visa. We get there, and the first day, the waves are flat. But we meet a couple local surfers and a couple other traveling surfers, and they say, there's a big swell coming. The waves are going to be amazing. We find a little place just outside of the town near the beach, and we're ready. All we have to do is just wait for the waves. So we're falling asleep on the second night, and the ground is shaking, the building is shaking. My friend Jack is in the bed next to me, and he goes, "That was a bomb." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And then we can hear coming in like, boom, and another bomb. And the next thing you know, there's like bombs coming in, and they're shooting mortars. We realize they're shooting mortars into the town. And then there's machine guns, and you can hear the heavy machine gun, like, and the different calibers making different noises. And, by this time, like, Jack is under the bed, and I'm peeking out the window, and I can see the muzzle flashes of machine guns, and I can hear people yelling, and there's someone close to our place like shooting a smaller caliber weapon. And next thing you know, there's a helicopter coming in. They're shooting flares out over the town, and it's like we've gone to a full-on scene out of a movie. It's a war, and we're in a war. And, we're like, whoa. But it happened, probably went on for about an hour. It seemed like it lasted forever, but eventually things quiet down. We fall asleep. We wake up the next morning, and we're talking with some other surfers that we'd met and talking about, like, wow, that was so crazy, and actually a mortar hit the roof of the place right next to us. It was a dud, and it bounced into the yard where we were staying. And a couple of the guys were like, "We're out of here. We're getting the next plane. We're getting out of here." And at this point, like, surfing was my entire life. Like, it meant everything to me. And I'm thinking, like, why would you leave? There's a big swell coming. I mean, like, what more could happen? We made it through this. So we're there for like a week or so, and there's some great waves. And at this point, there's a curfew. You can't go out past dark. But, there wasn't anything really. Every now and then we'd hear some machine gun fire in the distance. But overall, things were pretty quiet. We'd met this guy named Mike from Texas. And he said, "Hey, if there's a day where the waves are small, I want to take you guys to this waterfall. It's a beautiful waterfall." And so the day comes, there's no waves. And Mike comes with, his brother and his friend, my friend Jack and myself, and this guy, Scott. He's a doctor from LA, an ER doc that we'd actually met in Costa Rica. So the five of us get on this it's like a bus, little local bus. We get on the bus. Mike just tells he tells the driver, just let us off here, about 10 minutes out of town. It's like a random stop in the middle of nowhere. We get off the bus. We walk into the jungle. We come to this little river. We start following the river for about 10 minutes. And then here we come to this beautiful opening. And there's this like 100-foot waterfall. I mean, it's incredible. At this point, I'd never even seen a waterfall. So it's like, wow, this is amazing, this waterfall. Someone pulls out a joint. We smoke it. We're, like in the water. It feels so cool. In El Salvador, I mean, anywhere in Central America in April is so hot. You're sweating all the time. Even the ocean was hot. I'd be sweating surfing. So I'm in the water, and it's just amazing. And we swim over under the waterfall. And one of the guys is like, "Yeah, like imagine like if a cow like fell in the river and fell down on top of us." So now I'm in the waterfall. Like what the, like I'm going to die from a cow falling on me. So, I'm like, all right, maybe, we get out, we're laughing and everything's good. And, all right, it's time to head back. So I'm in the front and I'm walking along. I'm still kind of just cruising. And all of a sudden I hear this, "Hey, gringo." And I look across the river, and there's this guy, like this man with he's like in a uniform, and he's got grenades on his belt. But the worst thing is he's wearing a mask, like he's got a bandana on his face, and he's holding a rifle, and he's like pointing at me, going, "Come here." And I'm just like, it's so surreal, and I'm kind of high, and I'm like, what? Like, is this like? And then Mike comes behind me, and he goes, "Oh shit!" And like when he said, "Oh shit," I was like, "Oh shit." Like, this is real. And meanwhile, I'm so focused on this guy that I don't see the other guy coming up to me, and he walks and just puts a gun, boom, right in my face. And so now I've got a pistol in my face. I've got this guy with the grenades over there with a gun, and then two other guys come with machetes. So they're like, "Follow us." And it's like, okay, now what's going on? This is pretty scary. Like, where are they taking us? Like, if they're going to rob us, why don't they just rob us right now? So they take us across the river, and they start hiking us up into the hills. And I'm thinking, like, what my mind is going crazy. Like, I'm imagining, is there a shallow grave waiting for us? I mean, what's going to happen? This is a civil war. Like, people are dying all the time here. And they bring us up there, and I'm like, fight or flight. Like, I'm ready. Like, I'm not going to just go silently into the night. So And one of the kids, I mean, he was like a kid, basically my age, maybe even a little younger, like teenager, and with a machete, and he just looked at me like, it's cool. Like it's cool, just be cool. And I calmed down, and they brought us up and kind of an area away from the river and sat us down. They robbed us. I mean, we didn't have much. They took our shoes, maybe a couple watches. We really had no money. My one friend, Jack's got giant feet. He started taking off his shoes, and they're like, nah, we don't, we don't need those things. We don't know anybody with feet that big. So, they said, all right, like, don't go to the cops, because the only guy wearing the mask was the soldier-looking guy. And, because our people are everywhere, and we can put out the word to have everyone in La Libertad killed. And we're like, no, it's cool. We're just surfers, man. Like, no worries. Sit here for a half hour, and then you can leave. So, we sat there for, 20 minutes, and then we're like, we're out of here. Went straight back to town, went straight to the bar, started drinking heavily, and just so grateful to be alive. And, I'm grateful to be alive to tell the story to you guys. And now I still go on surf trips, but I'm the old guy. I like to think that I'm a little wiser. I still love surfing, but I don't know. If I woke up to the sound of a bomb going off, I might get on the plane the next day, even if a big swell is coming. Thank you.
Gary Kohner. Oh God, I think Gary, I'm sorry to the next three storytellers, he wins the sound effects award for the evening, don't you think? Totally, that was awesome. And I didn't even know if he made it or not. You didn't know if he lived. It was like, who knew what the ending would be? That is amazing. I'm Jack. You guys Jack? I'm like under the bed, because I know being under the bed would save me from a bomb, right? It was totally, I was totally Jack under the bed. That was awesome, Gary. Oh my gosh. Gary, let's see, he grew up in Sconset. Where are my Sconset people? Yeah, well, we got some Sconset in the house. And he started surfing on the South Shore as a teenager. He owns the Nantucket Island Surf School, and he's been sharing his love of surfing with others as a teacher for over 20 years. Well, cool. Totally. Okay, tell us about a time you gave or received help. Okay, my sister was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She was estranged from the family, which was her choice for many years, and she was living alone in a different part of the U.S. I took a leave from work to go to her and be of help to her, and I reconnected with her. And we got to know each other again. It felt good, it felt important, it felt like what I was meant to do. Oh, it's amazing how you can make someone tell a full story in a minute or in 10 seconds if you have a full, you can have a full arc. And as you listen to the stories tonight, I teach storytelling actually, and one of the things an exercise that we give people is we tell them to you want to deconstruct your story. And you can get a sense of a story if you just hear perhaps their first line, their opening, and sort of the peak of that arc, that main scene, and then their ending. You get a sense of their story. I think we got that just in what we just heard. A time you felt you received or gave help. One day on the fast boat heading back to the island, my 3-year-old rascal, I assume that's a child, could be a dog, could be a husband, don't know, managed to evade and outwit me. It sounds like a military. It was an evasion and outwitting in an unannounced game of hide and go seek. After circling the boat, I think are there parents in the audience? I think we can relate to this. In a frantic manner, some amused onlookers motioned under the seats, in between 2 rows of seats on the main level of the boat. Nevertheless, there were the 2 tattered boots, peeking out from under the seats at me. After the initial worry had subsided, I felt a huge wave of gratitude for the folks that had watched it happen and had likely been through it before themselves. A little camaraderie and gratefulness, and a little shared parent love. Good stuff. Yeah, great. Yeah, goodness, lots of things happen on that ferry, doesn't it? That's amazing. We could do a whole show on just shit that happens on the ferry. Yes! Okay, our next storyteller coming to the stage, her favorite spot on the island is Sconset, but all over the island, I guess, because she likes to chase sunrises and sunsets and moonrises all over the island. Please welcome Jane Bourette.
There we go. Does that sound good? So, when I was 30 years old, I thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. I had a great job, I'd bought a home, I had a healthy, beautiful girl at home, and I was about to give birth to a boy. Well, that birth happened really fast. So fast, the midwives exclaimed with joy, "Born in the caul. Your baby boy's healthy, but he was born in the caul." I'm like, what? And I think a lot of you are thinking the same thing. What is she saying? CAUL, born in the caul, is extremely rare. It happens in only 1 of 80,000 births. And it means that the water never broke, and the baby came out with the water intact, and they have to break it and clean it off. Totally healthy. But apparently, legend has it, and you can Google this, a lifetime of good luck. Well, that didn't feel like my life for very long. The first 2 years after that, my marriage went downhill. I was working to support the family, he was home with the kids, and we fell apart by my son's 2nd birthday. We then spent 2 more years in and out of courtrooms, lawyers, guardian ad litems, and I'll never forget that November day when we stood before the judge, and he said, "I'm awarding full custody to the father who will live in the marital home, and the mother will support him." I was like, are you shitting me? I really didn't think that was going to happen. And as a mother, I was devastated, as you can imagine. I ran home, I sobbed. I thankfully had a good therapist who I called and said, what the hell am I going to do now? He said, you're a mother, be a mother. So that's what I did. For the next 4 years, I had them almost every weekend, lots of dinners, holidays, vacations. One holiday I insisted on was Christmas Eve night, overnight, was special to me. Doctor's appointments, teacher appointments, play dates. When I wasn't working, I was with those kids as much as I could. But then things fell apart again. I was working more, and my husband was getting sick. And we went back to the courts, did it all over again. But this time, I was awarded custody. Oh, we could start over. Everything's going to be okay. Other than we just lost the marital home, and I almost lost my credit. But I uprooted them and moved them to a new town. We're starting over. I still have a good job. But I needed help. I couldn't do it alone. I hired a lot of help. And we did okay for a little while, but then I said, I can't do this alone. I just can't. I'm going to quit my job and stay home with them and figure something out. My therapist said, no. Put them in boarding school. I'm like, what is that? Little did I know there was a nice, wonderful junior boarding school in the very next town, and it would be a gift for all 3 of us in the long run. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on. And even when I got them to go, and they went willfully, they're going to live with their friends, and they got a great education, I was being judged and shamed by a lot of mothers. Who would put their kids in boarding school at such a young age? They didn't walk in my shoes. They didn't know what I was going through. And I felt it was the right thing to do. And we did okay for a while, until I lost my job a year later. Like, shit, how am I going to support these kids? They were thriving. They were doing great. But I had to do something to keep everything afloat for a while, and there had been a stock market crash. There was no jobs in my field. Thankfully, a friend bought a house on Cape Cod, so I sold everything and moved down there and began what was called this Cape Cod Shuffle, which some Nantucketers can relate to. Summer home, winter home, no affordable year-round housing. But it was a great area. It was a good place for the kids to come home to. I didn't want to uproot them. They were doing great. And I felt it was the right thing to do. And as luck would have it, that fall, at my son's football game, I met someone who helped me find a new career path and said, you can do this on Cape Cod, study for it, I'll help you. Great, I'm on my way. Within months, I ran out of money. I just knew I had to do something because it was depressing. I didn't want to pull them out of school. They were doing so great, and I needed to get by. Thankfully, the school had lots of programs. I got some financial aid for them. I took some loans. There was a Helping Hands program where I could reach out, and I got Stop and Shop gift cards. And I'm not ashamed to say I went on fuel assistance and food stamps for a while, just a few months to hold me over until I could start making money again. And I did. And the kids thrived. They went on to secondary schools and colleges, and we moved 13 times in 6 years. But we were on our way. And then I found a home, a year-round home to call our own. And I'll never forget that Christmas Eve. They were home from college at this point, and we're like, we have a home. We can unpack those containers. We're doing fine. And we were. That was 10 years ago. And my kids have gone on to find great careers and become independent young adults in Boston. I did grow my business well. I expanded it to Florida and Boston and then Nantucket, and everything seemed just fine until COVID. So, like many people, everything came to a screeching halt, and I had a lot of issues with relationships, professional and personal, and I honestly didn't think my business was going to make it, and I feared I would lose my home. I was scared to death. But luckily, I had just met my angel, this wonderful woman on Nantucket, who had started some workshops just before COVID, and she took everything virtual. With a group of other people on the island and around the world, we began meditating together every day, and workshops every week, and retreats every month, weekend retreats from Bali, where we learned to be present, to understand that problems are external, solutions are internal, and heal a lifetime of relationships. And that was the key, healing those relationships. I worked with her for 6 months, very hard, and then she introduced me to a business coach, an accountability coach, I guess, for the next 6 months to help me restart my business. And together, they really encouraged me to start writing my Jane's Journey journal and blog, and I could move forward. And I learned that luck is actually preparation for opportunity. And I felt more prepared than ever to make this change. In 2021, that happened. Things picked up. And without even trying, I won a trip through work to Cabo San Lucas. And I went 6 weeks ago and brought my son as my +1. And there we are, sitting in the middle of an infinity pool on a platform. I look over at him, I said, we're surrounded by water. There's no cord. But I have a home, I have a job, and I have 2 amazing kids, and I'm the luckiest girl in the world.
Oh, Jane Bourette. Beautiful. We feel very lucky that you're here. That was amazing. Thank you. The only thing I'll say is that to do a Zoom meditation from someone in Bali, I don't want to be present in the cold. I want to be present in Bali. That is very frustrating. That is gorgeous. Wow. It's amazing how we all found these just different ways to cope, and it's so great when we share them. So Jane, she enjoys walking the many island trails, playing golf at Maya Comet when you can get on the course. I love volunteering at Nantucket events. She's also been driving those big BMWs around the Nantucket project for many years. So, I never recognized you with legs. I've only seen you like from the shoulders up from the window. And people may recognize her business logo, which is Coast to Coast Financial, from the blue-gray Bronco that is tooling around the island. So she is a financial consultant, and wouldn't we just love to have advice from her? Thank you, Jane. Okay, a little more from our audience. I was feeling nervous about motion sickness sitting in the last seat on a Cape Air flight. Always a lovely seat, isn't it? Nothing better than the last seat on a Cape Air flight before Thanksgiving of 2019. A nice man named Joe Biden offered me his seat. I felt special, and I think Jill felt grateful when I declined. Joe's a good guy. Man, I saw him, the selfies, he is amazing when he walks around here. It's incredible. Was anybody in town when Jill was shopping today? Yeah. This is did you sell something to her? Maybe. Oh, yes, we have to kill you. Never mind, I'm not going to say a word. By the way, are there any single women in the house? Those Secret Service guys are adorable. My God. I tried to break a law just so they would shake me down, something. But like, this is one of the few places, I'm sorry, I am just riffing here. You can shut me up. But one of the few places I'm like looking at all these black SUVs and they kind of blend in. They're not like, scary looking. It's just like another day at Great Point, Okay. I like this one. A time you gave or received help. I once saved someone I didn't like very much from drowning. It was exhausting. I love that. Oh my God. Can you imagine? It's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Oh, I don't know. And one more. Okay. I received help. I was very independent until I was a victim of crime. Kids were shooting at this person's car windows. Wow, it's terrifying. I was very shaken by this random act of violence, but the police officer who solved the crime gave me support, and several years later, we got married. That is so romantic. Did that happen on the ferry? Because that would be part of that show. That's a great story. Oh my God. Okay, our next storyteller coming to the stage. One of his two favorite places, Cisco Beach and the Cranberry Bogs. Please welcome John Eboli.
Okay, so rehab, day one. I walk right into a nightmare as a kid runs past me yelling, "The Phantom Pooper! There's a Phantom Pooper pooing in the showers!" The Phantom Pooper thing went on for weeks. Someone was mysteriously leaving a piece of poo in one of the shared showers every few days. I was so confused because I had just come from detox. See, detox was paradise, man. Acupuncture, full bathroom right in your room, TVs, anxiety pills. I mean, I moved from the Plaza to a Motel 6 real quick. This place was awful. Just absolutely terrible. A room half the size of a college dorm with 2 beds, no bathroom. It was like 120 degrees in this dark, awful smelling building. I'm going through drug withdrawal, so I'm already at 110 degrees. I don't know anybody. I cannot believe it. My anxiety just skyrocketed at this point. I cannot believe that this is how bad my opioid addiction had gotten. I had no idea what to do. I called my dad. I said, "Dad, you got to get me out of here. There's no way I can do this for 30 days. Maybe we should go back a little bit first, though. I don't really know how to describe how I got myself into rehab, except for just needing a break from everything, from life. I don't know how to describe it. I remember a lot of happy moments, did a lot of cool stuff, but also a lot of bad moments and a lot of bad stuff. I just remember being numb for years, and that sounds a little cliche, but it's the only explanation. I was lost, my relationship torn apart as I watched my circle phase into drug dealers and drug users. I got myself into rehab because I needed a break, and now I needed out of that break. So I'm on the phone with my dad, and he said, "John, listen, just breathe, stay the night, see how you feel tomorrow, and please try to enjoy the rest of your birthday." Later that night, we had what was called the 7 p.m. men's meeting, a group of about 30 dudes in a circle reflecting on the day, talking about life and such. You had to say what your goal for the day was, if you had met that goal, and something you were grateful for. When it was my turn, I said that I was grateful for starting out my 25th year sober. Casey, one of the first friends I made, immediately got everyone to sing happy birthday to me. And all of a sudden, I felt all right. All of a sudden, maybe 30 days in a hot-ass closet with a phantom shitter on the loose wouldn't be the worst thing. Maybe it's okay, I'm spending my birthday here. My Uncle Rich always used to tell me this story when he first went to an AA meeting, how he stood outside just pacing back and forth until someone came in and was like, "Hey man, Someone came out and was like, hey man, it's okay. Just come on in, That's exactly what happened to me. The next night's men's meeting, though, was the night I'll never forget. This was a truly incredible moment. We somehow got on the topic of overdose, and without any prompt or anything like that, we all started speaking up. I learned that Brandon's brother overdosed in the house. Tim sold his best friend the last bag of heroin he would ever shoot up. I shared that my uncle overdosed in his bathroom. Jimmy's dad had just died. All of these tragedies. And you know what happened at the end of the night? I was amped up, man. I was absolutely amped up. We were outside chain smoking for hours, just talking. Discussing the worst times in our lives got us amped up because suddenly we weren't alone. I wasn't alone. The energy from that night continued over the next couple of weeks as I got to know a lot of great people. Casey and I bonded over our love of movies and writing comedy and sketches and the such. We talked about movies all the time and how he wanted to get back into acting. I said that I've always wanted to try stand-up, but that I didn't think I can do it. JT and I spoke about music and the Yankees almost every day. He was someone I really came to admire. As I could see the joy on his face when he talked about his career in education and how much it meant to him to coach baseball and make a difference in kids' lives. The whole group was like this, all the time, constantly checking in with one another after that one night. Always like, hey man, how you doing? Everything all right? Everything good? These people showed me that it was okay to be myself, both inside and outside of rehab. Because you see, usually when you're in rehab, you have no one else but yourself. And that can really suck when you don't have drugs to cover it up. My last night's men's meeting was pretty spectacular. About half the room went around saying they were grateful for me. I could not believe it. I truly could not believe it. And that's when it hit me, that we were all grateful for one another, for this experience, to be sitting in rehab together at this exact moment with this exact group, thinking about the folks that have left, and for this experience. The experience that gave me the courage to listen to my best friend and move to Nantucket and meet a dope open mic crew and start doing stand-up for the first time. She's one of them. This once-in-a-lifetime experience of human connection that even the staff members of the facility had never seen before. I've lost touch with most of this crew because you know how life goes. But a few I do talk to every once in a while. And to this day, they still don't know I was the Phantom Pooper. My 27th birthday last January, my girlfriend surprised me and got an audience group of friends together so that I could do a little stand-up set. They all knew how much I'd been missing it because of COVID. It was one of the best birthdays ever, right next to my 25th. 2 years had gone by since my 25th birthday. It's all I could think about that night. And the fact that my set crushed, of course. I still think about my 25th a lot, though. I do. I still think about that experience. I still think that the last thing JT said to me was, "This isn't goodbye." And I still think every single day about the fact that both Casey and JT are no longer with us. That they lost their battle with addiction. But I'm still here. And I forget that sometimes. I forget how grateful I need to be for the mere fact that I should have been dead multiple times. But I'm still here. If you ever see me doing stand-up here, I'll say thank you for laughing. But for now, thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
John Eboli. Thank you so much, John. Wow, 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 wow. One of the things that we teach, it's such a simple idea in storytelling, is to be yourself. And what that means is to be vulnerable. And you've heard that in all these stories. We particularly heard it from John right now. And it's an amazing thing that happens when you just stand up and you're just really honest. And you speak from your heart. And being yourself is when a room full of strangers, it just feels really intimate. And thank you for that. Yeah, great. So, okay. Here's, on an up note, a time you helped or gave or received help. I helped kids who had been abused find places of safety, and it felt amazing that the system can actually work. Pretty good. I like that. I'm a therapist. I give help all the time when I meet with clients. But the most meaningful experience is when I receive words of gratitude years later. Yeah. I know I've told my kids, I don't think it's ever too late to say thank you. Ever, ever, ever. My family knows this and my close friends, but 35 years after I graduated from college, a professor helped me, this is reminding me of this, helped me get through college. And I went online and found her. I found, she had a very common name, but she'd left. The school didn't know where she was. But I found her and I wrote her a note. And I said, you're going to think this is crazy, but I never thanked you. And she wrote me back 2 hours later. I said, in my note, I said, by the way, I'm not surprised you've done all these amazing things because, of course, I Googled you. That's how I found you. And she said to me, thank you for saying I've done amazing things, but one of the most amazing is receiving your note of thanks. So as a reminder, and to the therapist out there who wrote this, it's so true. Even if it's years later, it doesn't matter. Say thank you. And it did more for me, obviously. And here's one. I helped an elderly woman load groceries into her car during COVID. And it felt good but awkward because you don't know how close to get to the person. Like, are we doing this okay? If you move over, I'll get the grocery in. And this person, obviously, and you can't see their expression. It's so true. So you don't know if you're doing a good job or not, but I'm sure she would have kicked you if you had been way too close. I want to get all these in because they're all so good. Let's do one more. The last time I helped in a meaningful way was making sandwiches for the homeless shelter during COVID. It was wonderful, a positive experience I'll always remember and want to keep up and keep going. Okay, you guys are really good people, aren't you? Okay. I am very impressed. So are you ready for our last storyteller? Okay, our final storyteller coming to the stage. I don't even need to look at this. Her favorite place on the island is Madakasham, and she even knows how to spell it, so I believe her. Please welcome to the stage, Sage Dallmus.
Yeah, first try. All right. Hi, everyone. So for as long as I can remember, my relationship with my mother has been a constant battle. She was either chasing me with a hairbrush or I was chasing her with a stopwatch to make sure we weren't late for school. We've always been very different. She is chronically late. I showed up early to my own birth. She likes to match her shirt to her socks to her underwear and keep things in impeccable order. And I like to keep a stain from my lunch on my shirt to save for later. She likes to lean on others for support, to ask advice, help her make decisions. I have always been staunchly independent. When I was 3 years old, I just walked up to her one day without batting an eyelash and told her, "I'm going outside, Mom, just for a little bit." She knew I was gonna do it. She knew she couldn't stop me, and so I went outside. And eventually I came back. For many years, our differences were just your normal mother-daughter differences. But as time went along and we got hit with your classic cocktail of middle-class American problems, my mom dealt with a number of different health issues. My parents got divorced. My brother left. My father left with him. Suddenly, all of our differences kind of came to a head. In terms of how we operated, we were on the other sides of the spectrum, suddenly living in one house together. And it was hard, I think I really wanted her to be this Stepford wife, a mother who had, a platter of Toll House cookies prepared every time I came home after school and was just, chomping at the bit, waiting to sit on the couch with me and tell her about my day. Instead, I would often come home to find her under the covers with all the blinds drawn, as if there wasn't a day to tell her about. And I would go downstairs and make my own afternoon snack with a Thomas English muffin smothered with jarred tomato sauce and shredded mozzarella cheese shoved into the toaster oven, a pizza. And, I would make it work. I took care of myself, but I think I just had so much resentment that she couldn't do that for me in those years when she was dealing with her own grief and her own pain. It kind of felt like we dealt with this thing together. My father left, my brother left, and I felt like in a way she left too. But the more she cried, the more I couldn't, and we drifted further. And so once it came time for me to go away to college, I really ran with it. I went to 3 different colleges. I took a gap year. I took a gap semester. I was finding myself. I was on a journey of self-discovery, trying to figure out, what I wanted to do with my life, which is really just a key word for making a lot of terrible decisions and running away from shit. I remember being on Matacasham Beach one summer in the midst of all my wandering, and walking my mom down the shore and just announcing that I was dropping out of my second college and moving to Hawaii with a 50-year-old man and his son. Now, much like that 3-year-old, she knew I was gonna do it. She knew it wasn't the best idea, but she knew she couldn't stop me, and so I dropped out and I moved to Hawaii. Eventually, all my years of finding myself had to come to a halt, and I found myself in Boulder, Colorado, having just graduated with a liberal arts degree, and all my years of leaving having caught up with me. I was living on friends' couches and out of my car. I had all my possessions stacked to the ceiling. I didn't know if I was gonna stay there and find a new apartment, if I was gonna move back home, if I was gonna move to Paris. Who knows? The world was my oyster. But one night, I was in the house of a woman who I was house sitting for a few nights. She had this fancy apartment outside of town, plush throw pillows, floor-to-ceiling mirrors. And I was lying in her fancy bed until 3 a.m. with a poison ivy rash covering my entire body. I couldn't sleep. And suddenly, my independence just broke like a high fever that couldn't keep. All my years of running away and taking care of myself and going it alone just broke all around me. And I broke down, and I cried, and I called my mom, who I hadn't been calling a lot during this time. And suddenly, from the other side of the phone, from miles away, my mother, who was unable to hold my hand or rub lotion into my rash or make anything better, just listened as I told her what I was going through, how I didn't know what to do, where to live. She just listened. And after I finished, there was a long pause, and then she told me, clear as day, I want you to call me every day. And it just hit me like a knife to the heart. This girl who had just been running around, making her own choices, taking advice from no one, just secretly, just desperately needed someone to just tell her what to do. I just never thought I would be my mom. And so fast forward, I eventually moved back home, and I took her advice. As my life continued to unravel in the aftermath of all my interesting choices over the years, I continued to call my mother every day. Through those years, I dealt with a number of different health scares, mental health scares, panic attack after panic attack after panic attack, wondering what to do with my life after having blown up every foundation I had built in every city I had lived in, wondering who my friends were after having abandoned every relationship I had built in every city I had lived in. Through all this, my mother was there on the other side of the phone, just listening. Slowly, as I let my mother be there for me, I realized that she always had been, right? She was the one staring out the window, watching me intently as I stormed off as that defiant 3-year-old. She was the one watching the news, worrying as a volcano threatened to decimate the part of Hawaii that I had moved to. She was the one taking me to doctor's appointments. She was the one who had always been there. As I let my mother be the mother that she was and stopped resenting her for her misgivings, she started to become the mother that I always wanted her to be, the one who was there for me through whatever I was going through. My mother and I still talk every day, only it's not because my life is falling apart, mostly, and it's not because she needs to lean on me. It's because she's my best friend and I want to talk to her. Now, we just laugh at our differences, at all the defiant decisions that I made over the years and how she takes forever to leave the house. We forgive each other for our years of being at each other's throats because we realize we were doing the best we could in a situation that we couldn't control. Conversations with my mother have become a kind of home that I can return to after a long day. Only now, my mother is awake, and there's so much beautiful light coming in through the windows. And for that, I am grateful. Thank you.
Oh, Sage Dallmus, everybody. I believe her mother is here, and I hope she feels pretty beautiful about that, because that was special. Wow. Listen, my mom died many years ago, but calling my mom is still like the most heartwarming feeling. It's like something we all want to do. I still talk to her, actually, up that way, which is great. Thank you, Sage. That was just beautiful. Sage Dallmus is a writer, performer, and artist based outside of Boston. She currently works in customer service, hosts a monthly poetry reading, designs handmade greeting cards, and is still figuring out what to do with her life. And she still talks to her mom almost every day. That's so fantastic. And I'm so sorry to John because I did not give his bio, which I'd like to do right now. John is from New York originally, and he's been living on Nantucket for the last 3 years, blurring the lines between comedian and chef. You can find him working with students in the Stand Up and Learn program, in addition to his job at the Kohner Table Cafe. Can you get me the good stuff? Oh, I love that. You can find some of his comedy at Eboli John 79 on Instagram. Eboli John 79 on Instagram. And one of the things I wanted to say about storytellers is like they can tell if it's a funny person, they're going to find the humor in even the darkest of moments. And that was part of sort of being yourself. And I think we've heard that. We've heard light and dark moments. And gosh, can I have a huge round of applause for these guys? And I want to have a huge round of applause for all of you for being part of this show and supporting them. Exactly. And you know what? Happy holidays, everybody. I hope you have a story-worthy holiday. And, just keep sharing stories. And if you want to tell a story, we're going to keep this program going in the off-season, and we'd love to hear from you. So reach out to me, Bonnie Levison, through the Dreamland, or to Josh Gray. And hopefully, are there any other announcements, John, that you would like to make? Josh, excuse me. I was talking to... We're all set. Well, that's not very exciting. Well, you just go onto the Dreamland website because there's a lot of good stuff out there. Thank you all. Good night.